having so much trouble is because we whites got to protect our jobs and our families, etc. He said, look what you guys did to baseball. Look at the salaries they're making. Look what you guys did to basketball. Look what you did to boxing. If you guys did that to filmmaking, we'd be out. I said, that's not true. We'd all be making more films. We may even be making better films. And the investors would make more money. The theaters would be full. He said, no, we're worried about our jobs, so therefore we're going to keep you guys out. And it's the long and the short of it. It's the long and the short of it. We're talking about economics. You know, you take an actor like, let's say, Sidney Poitier. This guy was a box office draw for so many years. Then all of a sudden, blacks can't make it in film. Forget about it. Blacks don't make films that make money. Now Richard Pryor, he is so much in demand, he's booked up for the next 5 years. Everyone says, that was lucky. It was a phenomena. Here comes Eddie Murphy. Now he's booked up. So the phenomena that we talk about in Hollywood, that's all in our heads. That's to keep us holding on to what we've got so that you can't get in. Unfortunately, the blacks are visible. So when you say you can't get in and you speak about blacks, you can point to a color. The same thing applies to young white filmmakers. They don't let them in either, unless they're family or relative. They got to fight too. Women, they got to fight. It's Hollywood holding on to its established order so that no one else can get in and get a piece of that money.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder.
Hey. Coming at you all the way live from the lower bottom. Actually, I'm actually in East Oakland. I keep forgetting that I'm in East Oakland. This is Revolution Podcast. And that was a clip from a documentary from 1984 called Black Hollywood. And Pascal and I were watching that before the show, and I was playing him all these things. I had ideas for clips, and I had other clip ideas that were a little more topical. But that documentary is to me kind of a interesting movie. It's a lot of fun to watch. There's some really funny Paul Mooney clips in there, and I might end the show with a Paul Mooney clip if you guys are okay with that. So if I want to say that now because Paul Mooney's going to drop some N-bombs in this clip. I think the shit's fucking hilarious. But let me know in the chat if you want to see the Paul Mooney clip, and we will definitely play the Paul Mooney clip. Let me introduce my homie, my dog, Pascal Robert.
Jason Miles, what's going on? How you living, brother? How you living?
I'm living all right. Black Hollywood.
Black Hollywood, talking about American film in the 1980s.
Black Hollywood. So speaking of black ass Hollywood, last week, we had Fred Hampton's lawyers, Front Taylor and Jeff Haas on the show. And we definitely delved into the upcoming film that we are going to do an episode. I sent my brother that episode, and he goes, "Oh man, you got to do a recap show where y'all like, you don't have to necessarily stream it, but you got to do a recap where y'all both watch it." And I was like, done. It's already going to happen. But there's a movie that I did watch also about black ass people called One Night in Miami. And has anybody that's watching the show right now seen One Night in Miami? Let me know in the chat if you guys have seen One Night in Miami. I did not necessarily like the movie that much. I felt that the Malcolm X character was Barack Obama playing Malcolm X, and it just didn't do it for me.
I haven't seen it yet, but you already ruined it for me. Everyone keeps, my cousin, she was raving about it. She was like, oh my
really?
God, you got to see One Night in Miami. I mean, she's young. She's like 35. So she's, her historical memory is relatively short.
Is she a Barack Obama fan?
No, not particularly, but she just, but again, she grows up in a different period of time in which the identity of these figures are circulating.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just wondering, when I see the way in which black image is being dispatched on services, particularly post George Floyd, like on Netflix, like on Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, is it black exploitation 2.0? Is this a new kind of rendering of blackness at the expense of reconciling with American exceptionalism. You know, and I say this not to be facetious, because I'm wondering, like, you see all of, you know, people are getting applauded now. Joe Biden's here. We got Kamala Harris. We got you know, Pearls and Chucks and all of that stuff. The black political class is back in power. We're celebrating our historically black colleges.
Wait, you said back in power, like Reconstruction era?
Yeah, like, yeah, you know, the black political classes, you know, and everyone's kind of like, yeah, we're here, you know, we did it, Stacey Abrams, baby, and all that stuff. And I'm wondering, were folks around for the last 50 years when we were celebrating these first black mayors, these first black city councilmen, these first black, et cetera, over and over and over again, and they were governing over city budgets that helped facilitate gentrification or help govern over mass incarceration, or were generally unable to deliver the material goods at this stage of capitalism that was necessary to ensure a better quality of life for overall black citizenry. Are we that, you know, distant from the memories of where the black political class led us in the post-civil rights era, that now we're thinking we're going to get a black political class 2.0 in a post-Obama era that's going to lead us to, and I hate to say this, the third Reconstruction, which is a term that is bandied about quite often nowadays. And I think that, you know, there's really a lack of circumspection amongst those, particularly those class actors, who feel like this is some kind of validation of the black political project, without realizing that, you know, the entree of the black political class serves to fulfill the needs of those who are, you know, the lords of capital, not the issues of the black poor and working class. So it's interesting for me to see how this plays out in the Biden administration, when the threats of Trump are in the background. People are still warning about, you know, the threats of fascism. But it's just overall for me, it's a period of flux and analysis. That's really the way I look at it. It's just that we just really have to analyze what all of these factors are going to mean for the long term. Capitalism is in crisis. We have a period of definite economic crisis looming over large members of our society, and yet people are celebrating in the streets talking about Chucks and Pearls. So, you know, I see there's a certain kind of duality here that does not really explain the reality on the ground for the majority of black and brown people who are trying to struggle to this crisis.
Sorry, I was busy tweeting out the show while you were saying profound things. I'm giving you a fucking hard time. It's actually that you call it the third Reconstruction, because our guest that's coming on a little bit later tonight, Professor Dylan Rodríguez, wrote this book, White Reconstruction, Domestic Warfare and the Logics of Genocide.
Wow.
We are fray of another signature moment in the long history of the United States as a project of anti-black and racial colonial violence. Long before November 2016, white nationalism, white terrorism, and white fascist statecraft proliferated, thinking across a variety of archival, testimonial, visual, and activist texts, from the Freedmen's Bureau documents and the Join the LAPD hiring campaign to Barry Goldwater's hidden tattoo and the Pelican Bay prison strike. Dylan Rodríguez counter-narrates the long post-civil rights half-century as a period of white reconstruction in which the struggle to reassemble the ascendancy of white being permeates the political and institutional logics of diversity, inclusion, formal equity, and multiculturalist white supremacy.
That's an interesting take.
So Professor Rodríguez is coming on a little bit later. He's a very cool dude. I actually truly enjoyed talking to him. There's a podcast episode him and I did a few weeks back. You can go back and listen to. We don't really talk about the book too much, because if you listen to the podcast at all, you know it's even more chill than this is. which is somewhat of a laid back discussion. And we got into a lot of stuff. We had, you know, it's 2 hours long, and the second hour is a patron only thing. But in the second hour, he talks about a lot of his dealings with Van Jones back in his early days as an activist, as a student here in the University of California, Berkeley. Riverman says yes to Paul Mooney. No, I skipped one night. Not going to watch Black Messiah or whatever it's called. Either the latter is problematic already. We'll wait to hear you all critique it. I'll say this. I watched an interview from a year ago with Lakeith Stanfield, and I don't remember if I said it on here on air or not, but I will always say this on there about Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield is the reason why we got new shower curtain and a floor mat at the studio, because there's a scene in Sorry to Bother You where he gets shit dumped on him or something. And of course it wasn't shit, it was like mud or something, but he was covered in something. I can't remember what it was. And I remember I kind of managed the studio during the day, and they're shooting in the back half of it. And I remember the showrunner goes, "Hey man, Lakeith can only shower if we get him a new shower curtain. Do you mind?" And our shower curtain was fucking disgusting. Like, we hated to touch it to just open up the shower. Like, it was gross. And so the fact that he got our bathroom cleaned up was like, I will always love him for that. And so listening to him talk about this, portraying this character, William O'Neill, who, as we talked about last week, and if you don't know, William O'Neill is the FBI informant that drew the map that ultimately got Fred Hampton killed. It sounded like he had a real problem with playing the character to the point where it really fucked with him emotionally. And I didn't watch him every day as they were filming Sorry to Bother You. And if you've ever seen the film, you know it's a satire, right? But there would be moments where he would film scenes, and if you did see him, he would be in character, and you knew not to fuck with him because he was really in character. So to have somebody battle with that inner demon, like it is, William O'Neill is literally the antithesis of who Lakeith Stanfield is as a man, and for an actor who ultimately plays pretend for a living. To say this cat is so far off the fucking radar from who I am as a person and to what I think is okay, it's hard for me to do, to the point where he said that he was like in tears playing the role. So I want to see how he handles it, and definitely want to see put in that scene with where he's supposed to handle Fred Hampton's. He's a pallbearer at Fred Hampton's funeral, the real William O'Neill.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I'm a fan of Lakeith Stanfield's work. He's a great actor, but I can't imagine having to play that part. I mean, that's going to be soul draining. But I mean, I'm just interested to see how much they're going to focus on the role of William O'Neill compared to Fred Hampton.
Oh, it's supposed to be about William O'Neill.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Riverman says, "Cry me a river. It's acting. Give me a break. I don't need the excuse making." He cashed the check, right? Hey, Riverman, you are right. Ultimately, the brother cashed the check. I don't know how big the check was. He's going to win an award for it, and I really believe in my soul he's going to win some sort of award for this. I don't know if it's going to be an Oscar, but this Black Departed, if you will, is what they're calling it. And I hate saying that because The Departed is a remake of a Chinese film called Internal Affairs. I thought you said Ron O'Neill instead of William O'Neill, and I was like, what? No, Superfly did not get Fred Hampton killed, but Superfly was the Cuban general in Red Dawn. So go back and watch Red Dawn. That is a much older, and he learned Spanish for that role. Ron O'Neill learned Spanish to play the Cuban bad guy in Red Dawn. I think that's interesting because he still had the pimpy hair.
The press, he had the perm, the press back.
Yeah, the perm.
He had the press, the fly press.
It's like they were like, we love you. We love you, but can you give us the hair from Superfly? So yeah, One Night in Miami is not, I don't know what. I didn't expect anything. I just wanted to see it because it's Regina King's debut. Pascal and I were talking about Regina King. Regina King is amazing as Riley and Huey on the Boondocks. She brought those characters to life. I don't know if you know, originally it was supposed to be Alicia Keys was supposed to be Riley. Did you know that?
I'm interested to see how they reconcile the black nationalism of those characters through a modern day lens in film. I'm really
of One Night in Miami, or
yes, One Night in Miami.
The black. They don't really get into it too much, to be honest with you.
Which is interesting, right? Because that means that they're not even taking the politics of these guys seriously. Because you could argue that all of them possess a certain form of nationalism about them, right? So you would think that they would delve into their how their politics animate them as a character.
Mm-hmm. Oh, somebody's catching us live for once. Yes, if you watch us on Zero Books, you don't get a chance to come in here and talk shit with us. But today, as we wait for our guest, this is definitely please come in here and talk shit with us time, because we have a planned riff, but I definitely like riffing with y'all. If this is your first time watching the show, it does stem from me being a musician for years. I still am, I guess. And I can't go out and perform anymore and interact with crowds. So this chat is as close, unfortunately, as I can get to interacting with the crowd. So motherfuckers comment. Just don't be rude. That's all I ask. I don't think it really dealt with it too much. I think, again, it's trying to deal with this aspect of them all getting to a point in their life where they have to make these huge changes, right? It's Malcolm X leaving the nation. It's Jim Brown leaving football. It's Muhammad Ali joining the nation, and it's Sam Cooke in the portrays of pivoting to a more socially conscious music. So they're kind of, I would say the Malcolm X character, who again is the greatest Barack Obama impersonist ever, playing Malcolm X.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem for me, man. That's going to be a problem for me.
Who's seen One Night in Miami? There's a few people watching this damn stream right now, and I know some of y'all have seen One Night in Miami. It's not just me. I'm not the motherfucker keeping Amazon afloat watching it.
You can't be the only super black.
It's not just me. There's some very, very middle-class Negroes that watched that shit and cried at the end. Bob Lloyd, you saw the movie. What'd you think, B. Lloyd? Let me know. I couldn't watch the whole thing, not into it. Was it because the guy playing Malcolm X reminded you too much of Barack Obama? And you were like, I got to stop because this motherfucker kind of looks like Barack too. And to that point, the movie Malcolm X, you can't tell a man's life story as complex as Malcolm X in 2 hours. And I don't, there's definitely some problems I have with Spike Lee's movies and Malcolm X. That being said, Denzel Washington nails Malcolm X's everything to the point where he became Malcolm X for that movie. There's a scene in it where he goes off script, where he's actually not reading a Malcolm X script. And Spike Lee was like, where'd you get that? And Denzel's like, I'm so into this character. Didn't get that from One Night in Miami.
Shout out to Michael Brooks, Nation of Islam Obama.
That Michael Brooks bit I was gonna try to fuck around and do it. I'm not gonna try to fuck around and do it.
I would like to hear. I'd like to hear more about that. What was that about?
Michael Brooks would do this Obama impersonation, but he would talk like Obama was actually from the Nation of Islam. So it would be the Obama that Fox News says he is, right? Actually, Torre looks like who's BO? Barack? Oh, that's fucked up.
Oh my God! Don't do that to my man Torre. Don't do that. No.
That's my mom too. Mama, you can't be talking about my friends like that. I just thought it was conversational and focusing on personalities, nothing about Malcolm's politics that was driving him. No, they talk a little bit about his politics. At one point, Malcolm calls them bourgeois. That's like his most that he's gonna say. Yes, rest in peace, Michael Brooks. It was a class act, man. I think a lot of what we're seeing infighting in the left, I believe in my soul, you wouldn't see happen if Michael Brooks was alive. I believe that in my soul. I just think he would have handled it and calmed some people down that's feeling themselves a little too much. I like Pascal. He seems nice. Mama, he's not. He's mean and he calls me names when nobody's looking.
Oh, that's so not true.
Remember that? What did you guys think about when Paul Mooney makes that comment about Wayne Brady, which I think is very true, right? Wayne Brady makes Brian Gumbel look like Malcolm X. And then the next week on Dave Chappelle's show, Wayne Brady does that extremely hilarious skit where he's a pimp. It's like Training Day where he's fucking with Dave Chappelle. What did you guys think about that? What did you think about that, Pascal? Do you remember that?
I think Wayne Brady gets a lot of flack. I mean,
oh, it's my brother.
Wayne Brady is talented.
Yes.
He's funny. He can sing.
Yes.
He do his comedic thing. And I feel that Wayne Brady is getting flack just because he's nice. Like that's really the only. Like I mean,
yeah.
Like
no,
I mean,
yeah.
He's not cool. I mean, he's not cooning out any more than most folks in the entertainment industry are. It's like y'all just think that Wayne Brady is too soft to be a black man, and he deserves to get. I mean, I remember when Wayne Brady stood up to Bill Maher.
Yeah,
I was like, "Yo, I'll beat that. I'm not lacking blackness to beat your ass, though."
Yeah, Wayne Brady, I agree with that, and that goes into the stereotype. So it's my brother, y'all. Joel's my brother. If you ever hear me talk about my brother, my brother Joel. Did we watch any of AOC's IG Live? I saw a little bit of AOC's. I don't really follow Instagram like that. I saw clips of her talking about what happened. I think it's pretty fucked up. I think it's pretty fucked up that people act like she's some sort of like it's all fake. Have you seen that, Pascal? People are like,
no,
this bitch she over there crying for the camera. I'm like, word? You think that's what she do? Come on, y'all. Mooney is always right. Mooney's always funny. I don't know if he's always right, but he is funny. Stansfield's tears is probably a warning to y'all black radicals. You ain't gonna be happy with this flick. My mom thinks AOC is an actress. She's not. Stop it, mama. You know that poor. My mama watched Jimmy Dore. Nice. Isn't how I see Pascal. He seems like an unrelenting, principled, compassionate, magnificent pain in the arse in the very best way. Well, you can think that, but he's a teddy bear.
Oh, thank you. I want to hear more about what AOC did because I love it when she does the interesting kind of commercials for her various makeups on Instagram.
No, she talked about being a survivor of sexual assault and how she's still fucked up from the motherfucker storming the Capitol and trying to fuck her up. And I think people don't really understand that she takes on a lot of shit. And there are people that Pascal will tell you, and I will not name them because I made an agreement with him who we're gonna actually talk about, who we're not gonna talk about, that I may not agree with, but I understand that these people take a tremendous amount of shit. And you have no idea what people do. Our guest tonight, for example, is a professor. And he said something about BDS and Israel, like a negative comment about Israel. And this dude got death threats to his family. Say what you want about me. I could be all the bitches in the world and the hoes and all that shit. You can talk all that bullshit. Number one, I know you ain't really about that life because you're saying it on the internet. But you gotta leave family out of this shit. Because not everybody in this internet sphere is in here for clicks and likes. And you might just get fucked up. There's quite a few stories in real life of people talking shit online and them getting touched in real life. And when he sent me the things that people were sending him about killing him and his children, this shit ain't a game anymore. And it's going to fuck with you in some capacity. Right? Now this motherfucker got firearms because people are threatening him and his family over him calling out the apartheid state that is Israel. And I'm sure AOC gets shit like that constantly. Does Barbara Lee get that shit like that? Probably not. You think people are sending Maxine Waters dick pics? I doubt it.
That's a wild image.
So you know, them people was coming in there to fuck her up, Nancy Pelosi up. They wanted to fuck them people up. And it's one thing for her to talk all that shit behind the cover of her screen, and hell, even in the halls of Congress. It's another thing to know these motherfuckers have done breached the halls of Congress and they're coming for that ass. That's got to be a little scary. So she talked about the trauma of dealing with that. So I didn't watch AOC. I believe she actually takes a lot of crap, but I don't want to be involved in a politician centering her trauma on live stream. That's fair. That's fair. But sent who to Kamala? I don't think they want to deal with Kamala. I picture Kamala Harris mama talking to them like you talk to me, and they just fucking walk away at a certain point. Like, okay. I ain't shit. Okay. But yeah, that was some AOC shit. But one thing actually Pascal and I did want to talk about outside of the AOC thing. I really don't want to take up a lot of time on her. She's not even my congressperson. Thank you, Riverman. We're going to stop talking about that. She has premium health insurance to deal with her trauma. There was a situation. A friend of mine sent me a video. I'm on a show in the mornings now on Tuesday morning. I'm on Left Flank Vets Twitch stream in the morning. And they wanted to talk about something that I didn't really know much about. So they had sent me a video the night before of a young lady that got, I don't say that, a little girl that got pepper sprayed by the Rochester police as she was handcuffed in the back of the car. Apparently her father got arrested. I don't know what the father got arrested for. I couldn't really find too much information on that. And she's asking for her dad. She's 9. She's terrified. She's in the back of a cop car. There was literally 9 cops outside, and they're yelling at her. And at one point, a cop says, "You're acting like a child." And she goes, "I am a child." And she, isn't calming down the way they want her to calm down. I didn't really think she was being too out of line, situation considering. And a pepper sprayer. They say if you don't calm down, we're going to pepper spray you. And she's, being a scared 9-year-old, and a pepper sprayer in the car, then shut the door on her and walk away, and they kind of shake their heads. And they also sent me, as they're sending me this footage to watch, because we're going to talk about it on the show, right? They also send me the police captain giving his press conference, and he was like, "Well, we watched the tape, and procedurally, they didn't do anything wrong. You may not like it, but the cops are really messed up about this, and they're dealing with some trauma right now because they just had to do that to a little girl, and they're kind of messed up." And I was like, wow. And so I guess we were supposed to have a conversation, and we're going to get into this when our guest comes on, Professor Rodríguez, about this was the question that was asked, and I'll ask this to Pascal, and of course I'll ask this to all of you because I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. They asked me, post these George Floyd protests that we saw in the summer, where defunding the police was the mantra across the country, have we seen any real change?
That's an interesting question. Well, I think I sent you an article a while back that was talking about how certain cities, there's something like 17 different cities throughout the country, actually started the process of what they called, quote unquote, defunding the police, which really comes down to reallocating appropriations budgets from police to other social services for citizens. And they were talking how there were certain cities that were experimenting with that. I have not heard of any major large-scale efforts by major police departments like, say, the New York City Police or LA to try things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But one thing I am noticing is that there are constant reports of increase in criminal behavior in the wake of COVID-19, from homicide, burglaries that I'm seeing all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I'm also seeing reports of citizens asking, where are the cops? Where are the cops? So there's this really weird kind of duality going on, where we had these activists who were saying they want to defund the police, but people are noticing that the precarity in the wake of this COVID situation is causing public safety to become much more challenging. So the contradictions of that reality are something that I'm not seeing anyone talking about how exactly to play out from a policy perspective.
Well, I mean, again, we were talking about this off air a little bit. We always forget the 90s and the 80s and the crime bills that were passed, especially in the 80s, that laid the groundwork for what we saw in 94. 94 doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Joe Biden doesn't wake up one day and say, I think I got the answer, and it's locking up coloreds. I grew up seeing very violent crime and dealing with dodging bullets on my own, staying with my father. So we understand that it existed out of somewhere. It's just the rhetoric to try to curb the problem coming from the Black community was be tougher on the dealers. Do you remember that, Pascal?
Yes.
Lock these dealers up for life. And that's when you get from 20-1 with Reagan, you get 99-1 by the time the 94 crime bill rolls around. It was already 20-1. when it came to crack to powder cocaine. So if you go back and read some of the quotes from these guys that are like black politicians and black leaders, it was always there's the good ones and the bad ones, and we must do away with the bad ones. And that was it. That was the end of the discussion. We weren't talking about deindustrialization. We weren't talking about moving jobs overseas. None of that. It was lock these colored fuckers up. And the first pushback to locking them up was, if you guys remember, you're going to overcrowd the jails. Remember that? And that's why a lot of that bill in 94 is, well, we'll build more fucking jails. You're afraid we're going to overcrowd these motherfuckers, are going to be at capacity, and that's the problem that you have now, the prisons are at capacity? Well, there you go. We need more police. Again, watch Boys in the Hood. There's a reason why I wanted to watch Boys in the Hood with Pascal, Cedric Johnson, and Torrey Reed, because we all understand that that movie is the biggest advertisement for the 94 crime bill next to Menace to Society. So we're dealing with it here in Oakland, where there was a campaign to defund the police, and you have a fraction of that campaign that was calling for the defunding of police, and the city of Oakland goes, fine. Going and saying, well, can you just not fire any because motherfuckers is crazy and they're shooting? And what I've been talking about, and maybe it sounds a little tinfoil hatty, I don't think so, but maybe it does, is I feel like what we're seeing with COVID is those demarcating lines, and we're seeing real-time redlining. And the police are like, you people can't get out of where we think you should be. And we're going to police the perimeter. But inside here, just do what you want to do. And I'm saying this because I actually saw it happen where police just wouldn't really arrest people. They weren't fucking with you like that because they don't know if you have COVID or not. And they know, just like we know, where the COVID hotspots are. And guess what? Go check a high crime zone. I guarantee it's a COVID hotspot, because you're dealing with people living on top of each other. You're dealing with multi-generational families that most of them are probably working in the service industry. So they're just high exposure people. Couple that with, you know, the same reasons why you have crime. Motherfuckers ain't got shit. So you open up new markets. And it's violent right now in Oakland. Where y'all at? Let me know where y'all are at and tell me what it's like in your hood. I can only tell you what it's like in my hood. I've seen the homeless camp blow the fuck up. Rows deep, people living in the middle of the street. And we haven't even seen the full brunt of the evictions that are coming up. It's going to happen. All we're doing, and somebody asked this question, maybe it was in the chat, I don't where it's like, what are we? We're not saying your rent ain't due. We're saying don't pay it, but it's going to be due. And I'm going to ask for all that rent when it's due. It's like pausing a movie to go to use the bathroom, and you come back and you press play and the shit's over. It's like, well, didn't you pause that shit? I don't understand how that makes any sense, especially if people are looking at almost a year not paying rent. The mishandling of this virus, coupled with the fact that this economy was not doing very well before the virus, if it doesn't show us that we are looking at bipartisan middle fingers at the working class and poor, and it's not just in the States. My guest, Dr. Michael Harris, who's from the UK, we were talking about COVID out there, and he just moved to, I think he's in the island somewhere, Costa Rica. and it's blowing up out there, unfortunately for him. And he was in Taiwan for a minute, and he was like, if there's one thing that we should know as a people is government doesn't care about us. Full stop. They ain't trying to bail us out. You can force all the votes you want. Shit ain't moving. There's some people on the ground doing some very, very interesting work that's causing politicians to do the small things that they are doing. And that's amazing. And I think those people's voices need to be amplified to the umpth degree. The debt collective, they need to get their voice amplified so much more than we can do with this show. And we try our best to do what we can with them, because Pascal and I agree that they're doing great work when it comes to forming debtors unions. There's people on the ground in especially in Southern California doing great work with the unhoused community, really pushing the city to try to house their homeless population. Pascal and I were talking earlier to the defund the police point. Austin decided to defund their police, and they bought a hotel for their unhoused, for a small, not all of them, of course. And they're going to have wraparound services. It's going to be permanent supportive housing. We'll see how that's going to work. But what we have to understand, when you see things like such and such police department is going to have social workers go out and handle something opposed to police, that sounds beautiful in theory. But a lot of times social workers are just another arm of policing people. And when you work in that field, you understand and you know and you see it. Not all the time, not everybody, but it definitely does happen. So it's a complex problem. And I don't think we're really looking at really examining how deep this problem is. Because I can tell you from someone that worked in a hotel full of homeless people, it literally is, I'm going to take all this shit and put it right over here. And that's it. No services. Maybe you get some drug counseling here and there. And that's about it. Maybe. No education, no job placement. So what do you think happens when these things don't work? How do you get Joe Biden to begin with? How do you get Ronald Reagan to begin with? These things don't work because they were asking the wrong questions. So they got the wrong answers. That's what Adolph Reed's works about. That's Torrey Reed's works about. Pascal's soon to be works about. You got something to say, P?
No, man, I think you're hitting some really important points here about the challenges we're facing with this, impending crisis of capitalism we're seeing in front of our eyes with this COVID-19. And I think that we really have to be astute about how we are leveraging our politics with these slogans. If we are, in a position right now where, the police, we understand, function as a way to discipline the reserve army of labor in American society. And we understand how they work as enemies of the working class and the poor. But we also understand that this situation with the COVID-19 is going to create larger social instability that's going to require those people who are going to be pushed to the margins to have to be dealt with in a way that effectively at least allows them to be protected with humane treatment from the worst excesses of capitalism. And we have not figured a way to do that without police in this society yet. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying is that is there a way in which we can actually improve on the functionality of which the police react to these crises without without surrendering to their more kind of like, bone crushing tactics. Someone asked me, what do I think about the community ownership of police as a slogan? I mean, I think community ownership is a nice slogan, but at the end, how much power are the citizens going to have over the hiring, firing, and union membership of the police? Are you going to be dealing with the law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights, which actually is what gives police extrajudicial criminal and civil protections when they are apprehended for a violation, whether it's discharging of firearms or otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to interrogate these things. There are a lot of things about policing that are things that need to be looked into.
It's interesting you say that. So living across the street from the homeless camp, and I've taken pictures of it. If you guys follow This Is Revolution on here, I'll put it up. I have a picture of the homeless camp from not too long ago on Instagram. I took a picture of the camp so you can see that's like rows deep, right in the middle of the street. Before it got that large, when it was still about 100 or so people, they formed their own police force. And the funny part is, there's a cop that sleeps around the corner from where this spot is. Now we're talking about a hot spot of bullshit. I done seen hookers get their ass beat. I literally saw a man get ran over, probably on some drug shit, ran over his ass. And if you ever seen somebody get run over, hit by a car on purpose, it's not like the movies, man. It was brutal stuff to see, and then trying to help him. And within their community, they did a pretty decent job of not just handling their own shit, but cutting down the break-ins that we got with the studio. So I'm not, and to give you some context, I'm not staying in a place where you're supposed to live in. It's a business during the day, and at night we're supposed to be out. So getting your car broke into for a while was kind of like just things that happen. And when people would come to us like, hey, someone broke into my car, we'd be like, why'd you leave shit in it? Like, we were dicks. We were those dicks. That pretty much stopped as these homeless people were really patrolling the area, to the point where if somebody wrote graffiti on the wall, they would like interrogate the graffiti writer to make sure that they were like a legit graffiti writer and not just some tagger. So I definitely have seen people police themselves. I mean, and you don't agree with all of it, because there's also some nefarious activities that are happening within their policing, but I've seen it work, put it that way, to a degree. I've seen it work, because the Oakland PD were not coming down there to help us with anything. They were literally there to put out fires, because people threw Molotovs and lit cars on fire, and that's really what they would come there down there. Or if somebody got fucked up, then they'll come down there after the fuck up. They're not going to stop it. They still don't stop it. So I'm all for it, but like Pascal says, the people have to have real power in that. It can't just be a titular role where you say we have community policing or we have a community monitor and they don't really do shit. Like, they really have to have some say-so and some sway. And there's also a conversation, I don't know how you guys feel about this, and Pascal, I don't know how you feel about this, where people that say police should not have unions. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that the police union functions as a means of giving police permissibility to mask their harm in against the common citizens of society. So, frankly, I can see why the argument limiting police unions makes sense, because it's always creating a shield for police to protect them against harming society.
Yeah. And you know, we saw in Oakland, and I don't know if it filtered down to some of you guys, because I see people are calling from, you know, different parts of the country and different parts of the world. I think Oakland PD went through like 5 or 6, if not more, police chiefs in a series of weeks because of a scandal where the city, I was born in Oakland, but I grew up in Richmond, California. So the city I grew up in Oakland, was involved with this, I don't even want to say a sex ring. They were involved with an underage prostitute that they had passed around through precincts so much that every time someone would get promoted as chief, they had knowledge of the fact that this person, they weren't maybe part of it at all, but they just had knowledge that it happened. So they would have to step down from the role. And that shit just kept fucking happening. You know, to give you an idea of the level of corruption within this job we call policing. So when we see situations like the constant snuff film that we're forced to watch on the news, where some person of color has to take a hot one to the ass or get choked out, how is that going to change with training, cameras? What, I just don't see it changing until you change the material conditions of how these people do their job in the first place.
I think that until we talk about how we address the material realities of capitalism that make police necessary, i.e., neutralizing the need to have a reserve army of labor, then how exactly are we going to talk about absolving the police from functionality in a system that requires them in increasing times of precarity?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Political Pain. Shout out to Political Pain, man. Follow this young man's show. He just hit 300 subscribers on YouTube. Holla 300. It's like the Border Patrol agents busted trafficking people across the border, right?
Yep.
So
again, I'm not one of these people who were like, oh, the cops are wonderful. I'm like, no, cops have a problem. Cops serve a problematic function in a capitalist society to discipline the reserve army of labor and prepare them to be warehoused in prison. They are generally, I would argue, the enemies of the working class and have been throughout labor movement history, throughout American society and Western society overall. But in general, in crisis of capital, when there is a need to try to dissipate from the chaos caused by crises of capitalism, sadly, the proletariat depends on cops to neutralize some of the more difficult challenges of crime caused by the inconsistencies in that capitalist system. How can we create a society in which the social dislocation from crime does not make the quality of life for our citizens so bad that we depend on such draconian forces as police?
No, and I guess that I wish you would have been with me in the morning. I don't try to drain all of your fucking Superman energy, so I don't even ask. I don't bother you in the morning when I go on the Left Flank Bet show, and you put it way more eloquently than I put it. But that is ultimately my point, that I can't talk about defunding the police to the level that people want to talk about it for these, because I of course I hate seeing shit like that happen. I've been a victim of it. I remember I used to have a job where I made some money, right? And I had a suit on and I was dropping my kids off with my grandmother who was still alive, and my mother was taking care of my grandmother, and she was watching my kids for me while I went to my office. I was fancy. I had an office. And my daughter's about 6 years old, and I have a son that's a baby. He's less than a year. He's in a car seat. My daughter's buckled in the back seat. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm 10 and 2. I'm just driving in my car. It wasn't that nice of a car. It was a nicer Acura. It wasn't anything super fancy. I did not look like a drug dealer. I looked like a bougie Negro going to a bougie Negro job. And a cop pulls me over, and my daughter starts freaking out a little bit. And I'm mad that I'm getting pulled over because I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. And the cop pulls me over and he goes, I pulled you over because it looked like your daughter wasn't buckled in her seat. And I was like, why would you think that? What did she do? She didn't move. And he didn't yell at me, but he was definitely very stern for no reason. And my daughter started freaking out. And then he takes my baby out of his car seat and tells me that my baby wasn't buckled in tight enough. My less than year-old baby, and then adjusts my car seat and then gave me a ticket for not having my child buckled in well enough. My daughter's crying, very, very upset. And we get to drop my kids off. I'm pissed off, of course, because I just got this ticket on some literal BS. And my mom started crying. And she was crying because she's like, no matter what you do, you're always going to be a target to these people. And it scares her because she doesn't want her son to be a statistic. Right? So it affects me when I see stuff like that because I've lived it. But I'm not silly enough to think that you can defund that shit away. That doesn't go away. Right? So our guest is here. He is a professor at the University of California, Riverside. He is the author of several leather-bound books. This one right here I have in front of me. It is called White Reconstruction. He's got his Kamala Harris jersey on. Professor Dylan Rodríguez, author of White Reconstruction.
Professor Rodriguez. Peace.
Allegedly, Professor allegedly.
But throughout White Reconstruction, Rodriguez considers how the creative, imaginative, speculative, collective labor of abolitionist praxis can displace and potentially destroy the ascendancy of white being and civilization in order to create possibilities for insurgent thriving.
Maybe.
Some big words.
We'll see.
Multiple syllabic words. Professor Rodriguez, thank you for making some time to talk to me today. I appreciate you.
I apologize for the background. I don't get to use. I forgot that it's not on Zoom, so you see just this mess in this room in my house.
You might see. This morning, I was doing a stream with Left Flank Vets. If anybody's watching from Left Flank Vets, hello. My son, I had to watch him this morning, and he was being very two. And I had to tell everybody that I was watching the stream. I was like, look, my son's going to watch this show called Nut Job as we're talking. Cartoon might be playing in the background. My son might dance when he hears Gundam Style. I can't stop that.
2 is the best age, boss. 2 is the best age. Just enjoy it.
Oh, no, I got my oldest is 22. So I've run the gamut.
I know you have. No, you're my role model. You're my parenting role model.
Professor Rodriguez, we were talking about.
Did I tell you to stop calling me that? Didn't I last time? Didn't we go through this already?
Look, brother, I'm trying to show off to the crowd.
I like brother sometimes.
Okay.
Depends who calls me that.
Brother.
Depends, bro. Depends, bro.
I was talking about you earlier because someone, my brother, Joel Scholes, love you, had mentioned AOC. And her talking about, dealing with these people and how she was a survivor of a sexual assault, yada, yada. And I brought you up because you are actually dealing with some people that threatened not just you, but your family over some comments that you made that I didn't think were inflammatory to the point where you got to catch a hot one in the ass.
It just depends how Zionist you are. Depends how much you hate Palestine and Palestinians.
Apparently. What exactly did you say? Are you allowed to say it now? Or
hell yeah. It's out there. I'll say it 1,000 times, y'all.
Okay, what did you say?
I said I think the remark that the Zionists disliked the most was when I commented in reference to how the Zionist right-wing pro-Israel crowd is trying to erase, preempt, obsolete Arab American studies and Palestinian perspectives in the K through 12 California ethnic studies curriculum. I commented that Zionism, this position now, this right-wing pro-Israel position that is trying to stamp out Arab American and Palestinian presence in this curriculum. I said Zionism is toxifying the California public education curriculum, and I said California public education administrators seem to not understand this, and they need to understand it. Somewhat paraphrasing, that's basically what I said. And so I got called everything in the book. The one I showed you was something about my family should be lined up and shot down in a firing squad. And somebody said I must be over in the corner writing my own version of Mein Kampf, and I'm an anti-Semitic piece of shit. And
dirty wetback.
Yeah, dirty Mexican wetback. And of course I'm fucking Filipino. So get it right. Get it right. At least get your shit right. Hey, I'm honored again. My Chicanx folks and Latinx folks, I'm honored to be mistaken for you. I'm honored to have death threats coming at me based on anti-brown, anti-Latinx, anti-Mexican racism. Great, beautiful, lovely, but at least fucking get it right.
Oh yeah, it's. But we were talking before you came on. I don't know if you got a chance to hear any of the show at all. We were talking before you came on about defund the police, and I know that you and another friend of ours who I'm gonna call out. I never call her out. We have a mutual friend that actually connected me and Professor Rodriguez, Professor Sorahan.
Uh-oh, she's gonna be mad now.
Good. Let her ass be mad. I've been not saying your name for months, Han. Who actually, and I will say this: thank you very much for connecting me with Dylan. I appreciate you, and I'm glad he's here right now. But the defund the police conversation, of course, is back in the news. Not as much as it was in the summer, of course, because now Trump's gone, right? So everybody feels better about everything. But the little girl got pepper sprayed in Raleigh. Yep. I'm sure you saw that.
Yep.
Someone that's worked as an abolitionist back when that terminology was like, what does Sora say? I can't do her voice because she has a it's so funny to me at this point now. She's like, Jason, people would just look at you like you had a third eye on your head.
At best.
This is like the 90s. You guys are talking about this shit.
If you had a third eye, I'd look at you like, ooh. What? Can I touch that? Can I see? No, that's being polite. That's being polite. No, the way people look. No, they look at you like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
They look at you like, they wouldn't even put it this way, man. They wouldn't even look at you. There's like this. All right, you can leave now. We don't need to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your take though on? Well, Pascal, you might be better at asking the question.
Hey, nice to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you too, brother. How are you?
All right, I'm average.
Well, you're doing good things.
I'm doing a little bit better with y'all. It's not lit, unfortunately, because I'm inside the house, but it's just a bad habit.
Oh, it's going down on the revolution right now. It got real.
So we were talking about defund the police, right? And my position is that I want to defund the internal contradictions of capitalism that make police necessary. In other words, we understand in a capitalist society, the main function of police is to discipline the surplus redundant labor and prepare them for warehousing and prison. All right. So my question becomes then, if we realize that we have this internal contradiction in capitalism that makes this noxious force necessary, how do we create an alternative economic paradigm that facilitates a social welfare for our citizens and public goods protection by the state without depending on the need of the police state when they are internally a necessary function of the capitalist system that we're talking about? So what I'm saying is that I feel that the aspirational goal of defund the police is rhetorically aspirational, but divorces from the reality when you come to the reality that in the capitalist society, police cannot be divorced from the overall functionality of the mechanism.
So I think you just answered the question. I can go home. You just did all the work. You just did all the work. Okay, what I'll say is this, as far as the question you raised, robust and ambitious, visionary notions of abolition necessitate the abolition of the concept of property. I mean, fundamentally, right? Especially if we follow the Black radical tradition, the Black radical scholarly tradition, and understand that the origins of property are in chattel, right? The modern origins of property, which by which what we're really saying, we're following Cedric Robinson and all these other thinkers, right? If we understand, not just Cedric Robinson, but Cedric Robinson in a way principally, but also Walter Rodney, all these people that have thought about what property is. Property finds its origins in the transatlantic chattel trade and enslaved Africans. That's where the legal concept of property emerges in terms of modern capitalism. That's where the actual political economy of capitalism emerges, right? Is through the expropriation of African people, through the genocidal evisceration of peoplehood. So if we're going to be serious about addressing the foundations of the anti-Black warfare that is policing, right? The genocidal warfare that is policing, then you can't escape that conclusion, right? That if you're actually going to fulfill the vision, the creativity, the community, all the notions that abolition challenges and pushes you toward, then the abolition of property is principal to that. Right. And I'm not, by the way, I'm not one of these people who thinks that there's some kind of formulaic process, step by step, that gets you from A to Z. I don't know that history has taught us that. Right. I don't know. I think what history has taught us is sometimes the steps that go from A to Z are much more sudden, much more accelerated, and much more off script than we want them to be. So, man, my bad. Am I saying too many? Am I using too many big words, KC?
No,
I just saw the chat. I'm responding to the chat as I talk. All right. So So to follow you here, right? On the one hand, I'm with you because the rhetoric and the program of defund the police, I think it leaves a lot to be desired in certain kind of ways because of how it's already been appropriated in large part by liberals and progressives. To turn into an agenda that will actually expand police power. It might provide some piecemeal reduction in the personnel that we call police. But if we think in a deep way about what police power is and understand that police power has always extended beyond the people we call police, beyond the people with the badges and the guns. No, it's not Cuban. Sorry, y'all. It's not. It's Dominican. I have a couple Cubans in the humidor, Joanna. But if we follow this, if we understand that what defunding is getting at can be interpreted in all kind of different ways, right? I'll give you all an example. Here's the problem with the just in terms of the rhetoric of defund the police. Here's part of the problem. I was in a virtual town hall recently in which the chief of police at my university campus was trying to stipulate to the crowd that the defund the police argument was moot in the circumstances of our campus because they were already taking a 20% budget cut, right? Because of COVID and all that, right? A lot of universities, especially public universities, taking a big budget cut because of the ramifications of COVID. Now, mind you, the rest of the university campus is taking a 30% budget cut.
Oh, damn.
Right. So if you want to really go there, then the campus police are not only not being defunded, they're actually being privileged with, a third less of a budget cut than the rest of us are taking, including academic departments, right? Including things that are principal to the university mission, of which policing supposedly is not. Okay. So on the one hand, he tries to say, it's already being defunded. Well, bullshit. We got to understand. We got to be really precise when we use that kind of language, right? Because if we just throw defund out there without a clear analysis of what defunding means, the kind of antagonism that it requires, meaning that what we're really talking about is trying to strategically, maybe tactically, shrink policing power, not just the police, but policing power, then that's a different kind of defunding, right? Then you're talking about something that's more along the lines of a defunding that is also accompanied by a thoughtful, community accountable sense of redistribution. You're talking about redistribution, right? You're not just talking about defunding. Doesn't mean shit if you're funneling some of those funds into other apparatus, including social service, including CPS, right? Including all these other arms of the state that do the work of policing and surveilling people. That shit is not defunding the police, right? That's what you're actually doing is you're creating a platform to broaden the base of policing power beyond just the police. So we're talking about a redistribution of resources. Now we can actually get somewhere, right? We can actually get somewhere. We can think about forms of socializing capital, right? Socializing resources so that it goes to vulnerable people. So, let me be really concrete about it. If we talked about defunding the police in direct connection with housing security, just let me take two common sense examples. If we talk about defunding the police in direct connection with food security and housing security, let's just fucking focus on that, right? Let's just focus on food security and housing security. If we can say we are redistributing the resources in the capital that has gone to reproduce the domestic warfare of the police apparatus for years and years and years, and we are rethinking how we're going to build community safety, and we realize now that community safety is actually far more robustly supported if people have secure access to healthy food and secure access to safe housing, right? That shit is the most decriminalizing. That shit has the most decriminalizing effect of any infrastructural change that you can imagine, right? I would say prioritize that over all the other forms of defunding that people have been talking about. I understand that some folks are well-intentioned. They want to talk about providing better access to mental health services. I'm saying, what about healthcare insecurity? Right now you pair food insecurity, housing insecurity, healthcare insecurity, including but not limited to mental and emotional distress. People focus on mental and emotional distress because it's slick. They want to make this naturalized linkage between people who are either mentally ill or undergoing emotional distress. They want to make a natural link between that and crime, which is fucking bullshit. That shit is ableist as hell, right? That's something I've learned over the last few years, right? There's this kind of naturalized linkage that if you're going through mental distress or emotional distress, you're inherently going to be violent. It's bullshit. It's just not true, right? But on the other hand, if you don't have access to healthcare security, right, you might have to do what it takes to get healthcare security, right? No different than housing and food. So that's what we got. We got to talk about that. If we're talking about defunding, we got to talk about that.
We also have to admit, though, that police come out to mental health episodes because people don't know who to call, right?
Well, yeah. Number one, the problem is that they do know how to call, man. That's the problem. Or they think they do know how to call. They do know who to call, right? That's the problem, right? It's 911. You call 911, you call the cops, and you get the EMT here, and then you rely on them. And
that's the you hope. Look, I can't. Out here, sometimes cops don't want to fuck with crazy shit. So if you call the police because somebody in your house is having a bipolar episode or whatever the situation is, 9 times out of 10, the police is going to be like, we're calling the ambulance and we're taking to the county hospital, and you're going to sit there for 72 hours. That's it. We don't. That's probably best case scenario in a lot of instances, right? And in a lot of instances, that isn't what happens. That isn't what happens. Some people, we're seeing live time what happens, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Somebody records it. Somebody asked if there's a disarm movement at your university regarding campus cops.
Hey, let me take what Jeremy Salmon is asking right here about the disarm movement. I will double down on that, right? What's actually going on at my university, meaning the University of California writ large across the entire state, there's a movement going on right now that is not going to be pacified with just disarming the police. That's some bullshit, right? Like disarming is inadequate. I'm happy and proud to be part of a statewide organization called UCFTP. FTP stands for Free the People, Feed the People, Free the Prisoners, Fuck the Police, whatever FTP you want, whatever you want FTP to mean is what it stands for. And it is its purpose of existence is a cops off campus campaign. Right? We had a long series of debates, and we decided as a statewide group, it's kind of faculty driven, but we're in coalition with students, with staff, with unions, and so forth, that the least we can do is to push for the abolition of a police presence at the campuses, right? To exemplify and demonstrate what an alternative abolitionist model of campus safety, of community building would look like if you did not take anti-Black terror, racist terror, ableist terror, homophobic and queerphobic and transphobic terror, misogynist terror for granted, right? Because university administrations love to talk about values. They love to talk about community. And what I've been finding myself having to repeat over and over again recently is how the thing that gets snuck into the back door when those universal values get repeated is that they take for granted those forms of terror. Those forms of terror get normalized in the notion of university community. Yeah, Black people, Black grad students, Black staff, Black community members. It's taken for granted that they're going to be harassed, detained and questioned by police when they're on campus or when they're near campus, et cetera, right? So disarm the police, cool. Yeah, that's not sufficient. We got to exemplify and model the legitimacy of a form of community just at the campuses that actually prioritizes the safety and security of people who, since the foundations of the University of California, have actually been criminalized, displaced, and harassed, terrorized by police presence.
LME says, free the people across the UC system would be huge. That's the whole West Coast.
Exactly.
Right?
We had a long debate about this, right? Because we were going back and forth. It's like, all right, is it elitist to just focus on the campuses, right? And it was like, because what we really want is we want to push for a model of police abolition that is writ large. To think about the opening set of questions and challenges that we started the conversation with. What we're talking about is that really. But folks, I think I agree with this position now. But folks, what we need is a coherent campaign, like a radical abolitionist campaign that is actually winnable, right? And that's the thing, right? Is that sometimes we want to put shit out there that's winnable, but it's fucking bullshit, right? Like what you win isn't actually worth it, But
we're seeing it, right? We're seeing it right now. People talk about, like I said, in Oakland, we saw a little bit of it. The things that I'm seeing in Austin, Texas, I'm sure you're not following, the whole country, but Austin had a defund campaign, and they actually got a hotel for the unhoused with the money they took from the police budget. But as someone said before, they're going to call it something else if you defund the police. If you read the article, which didn't come from Jacobin or anybody, I think it was like Time Magazine article. They are shifting money around to make sure that other services that the police are going to provide are going to be there. Like, don't think that's not a thing.
Yeah.
And as somebody also said about private police forces, so there was a long, I want to say like a 12-year fight, and Dylan, you might even know about this, to get the cops out of the Oakland public schools.
Oh yeah, no, I point to that all the time. I say if Oakland Unified School District can abolish police presence in OUSD, then this Cops Off Campus campaign at UC is nothing. Because can you imagine?
There was a lot of pushback, again, from the community.
We still have that in Florida, man. Cops in the public school system.
I know.
And the pushback, and Pascal knows this, the pushback is in the community. People go, maybe my kid's school, but down the road where them bad kids are, aka them colored ones, they need police there. And I can tell you from someone that grew up in a city, and Dylan, the Bay, I grew up in Richmond, but I went to high school in Albany. And this may be bullshit talk to people. Listen, I grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of ne'er-do-wells, and I went to high school.
But you weren't one, were you? No, not you though.
I was ne'er-do-well adjacent. My parents scared me from being really bad, but we definitely did dumb bad kid shit. We just did dumb shit. And going to a high school without metal detectors and without guns and without any sort of real like police presence whatsoever. We had off-campus lunch where my friends that went to other schools literally just down the road didn't. It was such a different environment for everything.
Like maybe you could actually learn something.
Oh, and there's a class element to it, and you know, Sora can tell you because we all went to school together. But I can't imagine what it must be like to go to school with a motherfucking metal detector, like some Lean on Me shit.
Yeah,
we should actually watch Lean on Me. Remember Lean on Me? They used to call me Crazy Joe.
He died.
Yeah,
He died recently.
yeah.
He was kind of not the greatest cat. Locking them kids in school. Mr. Clark.
I mean, that's what I'm getting at, right? Is the glorification of police power beyond the police? That's what we're seeing a lot happening now. Is that people that are taking the defund framework? Some people are even taking the abolition framework this way, and that's actually not addressing policing as a paradigm. Policing is a paradigm. It's not just a particular institution, right? It's not just a brick and mortar building. It's not just a bunch of personnel with uniforms, badges, and guns and pepper spray, right? Policing is a paradigm of power. So what we're actually dealing with is a challenge to policing as a paradigm of power. As a paradigm of power, it is grounded in everything that people have been revolting against intensely over the last 10 months or so, right?
It also has its own ideological infrastructure that's re-encouraged by media depiction and portrayal, what some people call propaganda. I mean, the role of police in media is infamous, man.
Okay,
Yeah,
you brothers are a little older than me, right? Sorry, Dylan.
Am I?
I'm getting where you. This hopefully will make you chuckle a little bit. Y'all got me by a couple years, but y'all remember this era when you guys were graduating high school. Was around the time that all those police type principal movies came out.
Yes.
Lean on Me.
Yes.
Remember The Principal? They filmed that in Oakland with Jim Belushi.
Yes.
What's the other one? Even Wildcats with Goldie. She's got a,
Look, Dangerous Minds.
That was a little down the road, but Dangerous Minds, 187 with Samuel L. Jackson, Freedom Riders, where it's just like and then it gets into the white savior shit, whatever that is. But somebody said the TV show Cops. But I remember watching all those shows about there's these just incorrigible kids, and you need a man that's tough on crime. That's the 80s, right? Then we get to Boys in the Hood. Similar, we just need the Substitute series. Yeah, remember the Substitute with what's that guy's name? Police, but 21 Jump Street. A whole series about undercover cops. Which always surprised me because it's like if you're an undercover cop in one school district, like nobody knows who you are every time you go to a different school. Like that shit has a profound effect, I think, on the way people view.
Oh, absolutely, man.
Policing is some friends of mine wrote about this.
Remember, I mean, listen, it's not accidental, right? That the TV show One Adam 12 is coming out during the urban rebellions in the 60s, man.
Yeah. Policing is cultural. It's both a military, paramilitary, domestic warfare apparatus. It's all that, but it is deeply cultural. I mean, that's part of what the war on drugs campaign was, right? I mean, for good reasons. Critics of the war on drugs, they focus on the criminal justice policy. They focus on the policing strategies and tactics. They focus on all that kind of stuff. But the war on drugs was a cultural gaslighting, right? It was an anti-Black primarily, right? An anti-Black cultural gaslighting that won a lot of elections, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it it's the cultural form on which governing relies. Policing is, right? Policing is the cultural form on which governing relies. I mean, that's part of what we're dealing
Look at
with
how
here.
many of our senators come out of prosecutors' offices.
And
But
vice
yeah, you're vice president. Yeah, you're vice president. I mean, this is what we're talking about.
No, but
Yeah.
it's an insidious. It's such a deep part of the ideological infrastructure of American society, and in the cultural apparatus. I mean, just think of how many TV shows you see every year is revolving around cops, heroization of cops, normalization of police functionality. It's
I think the Law and Order series, and I'm a full disclosure. You can like true crime as much as me. You can't like it more than me. So I understand the contradictions of watching shows like Law and Order SVU. And if my girl was here right now, she'd roll her eyes and be like, this motherfucker watches that shit and then talk shit about it the whole motherfucking time. Black ass. But when you watch those shows, it's like the cop and they're so mentally drained by the job.
But it's fucking comedy to you, right? Like, you fucking laugh at that shit, don't you?
Yeah. Or it makes me have a conversation about how much bullshit it is. Yeah, but I do. And there's a few episodes in there that are actually interesting plays, more morality plays, right? But overall, it's always like they care so much about the job and finding the criminal. And then again, I love true crime shit. And you watch the true crime shit, it's always the same story. Cop just was looking for whoever they could find to close the case. Didn't care who the fuck that was. Case closed. Throw you under the jail. Eddie Conway was on the show Sunday. Sat down for 43 years.
No, he wasn't sitting down. He was getting sat on.
That is an inner city colloquialism.
Oh yeah, no, I met. Hey, Eddie Conway. Eddie Conway is. He's I've known him for I think almost 20 years now, and I remember visiting him when he was still incarcerated in Maryland. And Eddie taught me a lot of what I know.
Damn.
In conversation with him, and even the 2 books that he wrote. I mean, everybody needs to read Eddie Conway's shit. I mean, this is until he was released, he was the second longest held unrecognized political prisoner in the United States.
43 years.
Yeah.
Who's been in longer than him?
I think the only person held longer than Eddie at this point is Ruchell McGee. You know, and then somebody that was held almost as long as Eddie until he passed was Hugo Yogi Pinell.
I mean,
political prisoners, boy.
Yeah.
Or how long has Peltier been in?
It's going on 2021, going on for getting close to 40 years. You know, Mumia Abu-Jamal getting close to 40 years. Mumia Abu-Jamal, who's now a graduate student at UC Santa Cruz.
That's insane. Shout out to Francis Madsen.
That's right. No, but you hear. Let me say this though about this discussion we're having on kind of the popular cultural dimension of policing. I mean, it gets at this point that I was trying to make earlier, which is, you know, we can talk about defunding the police all we want, but if we have a narrow, conservative, you know,
reactionary.
It's reactionary, but it's also something else. It's reductive, a reductive notion of what police power actually is. Then we're running the risk all the time of supporting measures that will actually expand police power and the culture of policing, such that institutions and people outside the actual police get deputized. That's the point I was trying to get at. Right. I mean, this is how police power works. Police power works when it's at its most effective, by deputizing entire population. I mean, this is what you were talking about, Pascal, right? So sometimes, not sometimes, it is often the case that it is the most occupied, policed, criminalized populations that, in the first instance, state that what they actually want is better and more effective policing. I mean, it happens all the time. It happens in the colonial context, happens in the apartheid, anti-Black context. It happens in, you know, the indigenous reservation context, right? The notion is that, oh yeah, these police, they kill us, they maim us, they terrorize us, they brutalize us. And what we and that's A. B becomes what we actually want is the police to do their job better, right? And I would argue that that's a symptom of the fact that policing is a cultural paradigm in which the deputization of police power is fundamental. But the implication of that is that we actually can't think about power. We can't think about order. We can't think about safety. We can't think about community outside of a police presence. Right? That's. But we're in a moment now. We're in a cultural moment now where I think there's an opportunity to challenge that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're tapping into what some would call capitalist realism. That, in other words, the efficacy of the system validates its own symptomology by creating the paradigms that make it so ingrained in the mind and the consciousness of the body politic that they almost assume that it has to be real. Yeah, of course we need cops. Where do cops not exist? You know what I'm saying? We're always going to have crime. We're always going to have, you know, so it becomes impossible for us to envision something outside of the reality that we have today, because its permanence has been made by the infrastructures of the society already.
Yeah, and then the additional layer of problems is this, which is, you know, at this point we're living under a kind of industrialized political apparatus outside the state in which social movements get funneled into a set of assumptions that tend to reproduce aggressive reform as the horizon of political possibility, right? So the paradigm of policing is never actually analyzed or challenged. It's never even clarified, right? What it turns into is a reformist approach that understands what the police do as in need of correction, rather than an analysis of what the police actually are and what police power actually is. Right. So that's the thing that we have to constantly raise over and over again. Right. It's not so much because, you know, folks have said this over and over again. And Robin Kelly, Angela Davis, and Melina Abdullah just put this article out in Sacramento Bee like 2 days ago. Right. That repeats the same thing that folks have been saying over and over again. The police violence, the anti-Black police violence that we're seeing now, and that we're seeing so many of us rebelling against now, that is the police that is the product of decades of reform.
Thank you.
Right. So there's a real way in which police actually are the reform. Right. The police violence is the product of the reform. And the problem with the reform, with the reformist horizon, is it reproduces this kind of mythology that police power is fucking normal, permanent, and natural.
This question here, Brother Dylan, that whole wheat bread asks, and I'd like to hear you and Pascal answer this question. But I think you, in our podcast, we talked a little bit about this with Chesa Boudin becoming a district attorney. And for those that don't know, Chesa Boudin is a district attorney here in San Francisco. He is a open socialist. He say he's out. Mm-hmm. He's out of the socialist closet. And his dad was in Weather Underground and has been in prison his entire life for being part of the Weather Underground and bombing was it a bank or a federal building? And that guy is the district attorney. And the first thing he did when he got in office was gave a whole bunch of people that he didn't appreciate the boot. So that's what a progressive district attorney looks like. But how many years did that take to come to fruition?
Yeah, and I got to say that anything that is utilizing the mechanism of electoral politics, I think we have to understand it as a tactical measure. I don't think it's a viable and sustainable strategy. right? I think it's a tactical measure, right? I think what you can do is create some necessary and productive disruption of a genocidal apparatus in a particular moment. And I bet I'd be willing to bet Chase understands this, right? Knowing that if you're going to actually sustain an abolitionist approach to your office, that you're probably not going to be there that long, right? So, like, what if you understand that? If you understand that it is a tactical measure, then yeah, maybe something can be done. I think that's the debate that was going on this past summer into the fall around trying to make sure that Trump wasn't reelected. Right. Yeah. I mean, the most thoughtful people I knew just understood it as a strictly tactical measure. Right. There was no kind of investment of optimism and hope about electoral politics, especially at the national level. It was like, we need to kind of push back tactically on this kind of reactionary wave that is, terrorizing, killing, and, deporting people and, doing the torturing children, all this kind of stuff. So, okay. So like, there's a tactical, I understand that. Right. But I think I'm still on the side of those who hold a principled skepticism toward any notion that electoral politics or things that are done through electoral politics can constitute a sustainable strategy, not even a long-term, a medium-term, right? Not even a medium-term strategy.
Somebody says Boudin been charging a cop a month with charges on old offenses against citizens that previous DA routinely ignored. That's funny. He came in there.
I mean, that's fine because I like revenge. But
is it sustainable? Is that what you're saying?
It's not. I mean, inherently, it's not, right? It actually doesn't even. It actually, like, I get it. I get what Boudin is doing because it's his own act of using his office for some notion of criminal justice accountability. But that's not the best of what can be done, right? Well, the best of what can be done is reparation, right? To do an inventory of what police violence does to people, families, and communities, and the best revenge is the reparation. I don't care how many cops you lock up, man, because there's always somebody else going to take their place, right? It's a reservoir of police power is a reservoir. It's an infinite reservoir until you actually challenge the paradigm of power, right? And like I said, I am down with revenge. I'm with revenge. I just want effective revenge.
What say you, Robert?
No, I mean, I understand the strategy. I think it's good in the short-term strategy. I think overall, I mean, I'd like to see that for not just past cases, but for the cases that come up in the future. I'd like to see that, keep that same energy for when cops get, caught up in malfeasance today or contemporarily, as opposed to just selectively going in the past. So,
I mean, San Francisco is a different beast because their thing is homeless people that they go after. So I think when people think about police, they always look at it from this like black white perspective. And San Francisco is very different because there's not a lot of black people there. There's like 5 left. It's a homeless thing. And there's a lot of issues with the police and the way they deal with the homeless population, the way the mayor looks at the homeless population. She got busted out. Was it last year, year before last, saying some horrible things about homeless people in San Francisco. And there's definitely a drug issue there. Michael Johnson says reparation in what sense?
That's the question, isn't it? Hey, no, I want to honor that question. I want to honor that question.
That is your green truck. My 2-year-old just walked in and
that's the best age.
Phoenix, you want to say hello? No? You gonna be camera shy? He was acting a damn fool this morning when I was on this goddamn thing. He just walked out. He came in to take toy inventory and he's gone. SF is real right wing. People do their race talk via talking about homelessness and crime. Yeah, very, very true. That's very, very, very true. And I lived in San Francisco and I've been going to San Francisco since I was a very young kid, and I've never had a problem. I mean, I think my car got broken into once, but everybody's car gets broken into in San Francisco. It's like a rite of passage. car don't get broken into in San Francisco, it's like, you ain't from the Bay then.
And Nicolo was just saying something about I like justice but not revenge. I feel like I gotta be really clear that what I'm honoring is the sense of payback from people who are survivors of state violence.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, in other words, there's revenge and then there's revenge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, revenge. Not all revenge is the same flavor.
Well, there's a movie that maybe us three should critique if you guys are down for that. And actually, we can stream it on here because it's an Amazon movie. It's called American. It's not called American Crime. What's it called? American.
Is it the Ryan Coogler movie?
Is it Ryan Coogler's part of it?
No, not Ryan Coogler. I mean, what's Nate King? Nate Parker.
Nate Parker.
I'm confusing all these young Negroes.
Friend of show, Professor Kelly Dietz actually was an advisor on Nate Parker's Birth of a Nation movie.
Right.
And he's got a new movie out where a man gets pulled over by the police. His young son has a camera recording the police kill his son, and then he takes the police hostage.
Right.
The entire police department hostage and puts them on trial, and the jury are the prisoners within the looks like the county jail. And I can't think of the name. I think it's called like American something, but it looks like an interesting movie. I actually liked his Nat Turner movie, Birth of a Nation. I don't know how many people saw it because he got caught up in a bit of a bullshit sexual harassment thing from his American Skin. Thank you very much, Whole Wheat Bread. Shout out Whole Wheat Bread. American Skin. Yeah, that's the one. That would be an interesting thing for us to look at and critique. I think part of this show, something that I want to do that I think is fun because I like using pop culture as a reference to where we are now. We did it. We had a fun time doing it a few weeks ago with Dan Larson of Toy Galaxy. I definitely want to go back and revisit some Cold War era movies. Someone had asked earlier, and I haven't done it. So Tuesday night and Wednesday night we do a live stream at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Saturday morning we do a live stream at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or 12 p.m.
Tuesday and Thursday.
What'd I say?
It's Wednesday.
I lied. It's Thursday. Wednesday is when you see the live stream on Zero Books. Zero Books airs our live streams on Wednesday. They're airing one tomorrow. They're airing our conversation with Fred Hampton's lawyers, Flint Taylor and Jeff Haas.
I would like to really, I don't know if we have the time to do it today, but I would like to interrogate the professor's theory in his book on white Reconstruction, particularly over the period of time that I consider what I call the 50-year counter-revolution, which is the period from the rise of Nixon in 1968 going on up until the rise of Trump. And it's interesting that you use the term white Reconstruction to frame that period. I definitely, without a doubt, acknowledge that reactionary racial revanchism is a strong, consistent theme of the right-wing appeal in the post-civil rights era that eventually culminates in Trump, without a doubt. But is it as easy to say that the actual purpose of the reactionary right is the same kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Settler colonial animus in their preservation of capitalism in the post-civil rights era than that which drove the founding of the nation? Or is this something more sophisticated?
Nah, yeah. No, my whole argument is that we make an analytical and political mistake when we fixate on right-wing, far right-wing, and reactionary people and movements to understand why things are where they are. In terms of the conditions of domestic warfare that incarcerate 1 million Black people, right? That everything, right? That focus on people in the extra legal economy that focus on houseless people, whatever. I think it's actually a mistake, right? Because my argument is that it's actually the wave of racial and civil rights reform that's responsible for spreading and transforming the relations of racial anti-Black and racial colonial power that shape our current condition. It's actually the reforms that have done that. It's not the reactionaries, the far right wing, right? So by way of example, right, the first chapter of the book, I think about what the LAPD did, right around the time the Rampart scandal broke out. And some of the folks here, I hope you all remember the Rampart scandal. The Rampart scandal broke out late 90s into the early 2000s, right? And in response to the Rampart scandal, which is a widespread scandal, hundreds of people were prosecuted and incarcerated under completely false pretenses, right? There's massive corruption in the LAPD. And one of the mandates from the federal government on the LAPD was that they had to bring diversity to their police force. So then LAPD around the late 2000s to the present, and you can still see this all over Southern California, has been one of the most aggressive, what we used to call affirmative action, right? Now they call it diversity. One of the most aggressive diversity hiring institutions in the state, right? They got this campaign called Join LAPD. Y'all can type it in your browser right now. Join LAPD. I think it's joinlapd.com. They have a self-standing website that is aggressively recruiting women, LGBTQ identified people, Black and brown people, etc., to join the police force, right? And at the same time that that's happening, at the same time that there's this aggressive effort to do the diversity, equity, and inclusion thing, the DEI thing in the LAPD, targeted police violence, targeted anti-Black and racial and gendered police violence has only not dissipated. There are many places in which it's actually increased, right? That's white Reconstruction. That's white Reconstruction. The genius of white Reconstruction is the fact that it incorporates diversity measures, racial reforms, and gender reforms to reproduce and actually sustain and amplify these forms of white supremacist and anti-Black and racial colonial power. That's the genius of it. That's the Reconstruction.
Okay.
You follow what I'm saying? So Trump is whatever. Trump is whatever, right? He's dangerous in his own way, right? What I think is arguably more sustainably dangerous is this shit that just got elected. This Biden-Harris shit, that Obama shit, right?
Okay. I got you.
That's the Reconstruction. Right.
Okay, I didn't know you guys were gonna get quiet like that and all weird. I had to go run over and do some dad shit, and you guys got all weird on me. People are really enjoying what you're saying. I'm taking a little side peek in the Twitter sphere, and it's people are enjoying what you're putting down. I know it's late for a lot of you East Coast guys out there. Uh-oh. Yelled at right now. What? Why are you mad at me? Can you hear that?
Yep.
It's because he just doesn't know I'm his favorite uncle yet. That's why.
He's mad?
Come on.
Is he mad at me, Jessica, or is he just mad? You don't know? Just mad?
Oh my God, the emojis that look like Jason right now in the chat.
So, yeah. So, I can't. It's not letting me post it. So, I'm on the Left Flank Vet show, and I have internet problems during the day because my girl actually has like big time important meetings. She works in medical pharmaceutical research. And so sometimes it kills the internet and my computer freezes and it froze on this angry face. You don't want to say hello?
What's up?
Feeny. Okay. I'll remember that. Black hand. So my face got stuck, and these guys thought it'd be funny to make an emoji out of my angry face.
It is funny.
The shield was essentially the Rampart scandal on cable television. It falls into the trap that it limits the abuses of the police to the white anti-gang unit, and the solution is the diverse beat cops. Wow.
No, it's true. And because if you actually look at the Rampart scandal itself, the cops that were driving the scandal were actually not necessarily just white cops.
Yeah.
Right. It was a lot of brown cops involved with driving that Rampart scandal. Right.
Well, wasn't it a black cop that was involved with Biggie's murder in LA?
I mean, we could go on down the line. I mean, how did Malcolm X get killed? I mean, come on now. Right. Like we could go on down the line.
I know it's late. Dylan, I know you got school tomorrow. Pascal, I know it's past your bedtime. That being said, I think I found out the secret to not get the streams taken down. So we did a stream Thursday with Arash Kalahi, who's actually I think his kid. I don't know if he's one of your students, but definitely goes to Riverside, UC Riverside, and I opened the show with the Wall Street thing, and because there's a little bit of music playing, you know, YouTube took the stream down, and I had to re-put it up. But I have the entire thing playing with the clip for patrons. We've been watching.
Which I'm one. I'm one now. I'm in.
Oh,
it.
that's right. That's right.
I did it.
So he can hear the second half of his conversation.
That's right.
I found this documentary a little while back, and me and Pascal, I've been talking to Pascal about it, but I showed him some of this before you came on, and we showed a little clip of it to start the show off. And in this documentary, it's called Black Hollywood from 1984. Jim Brown is in it, football player Jim Brown. And I know Jim Brown is kind of a right-leaning activist in Southern California. And there's a movie that just came out called One Night in Miami, where it's supposed to be Jim Brown, Malcolm X. Who else was it? What's the singer's name? Sam Cooke. Jim Brown, Malcolm X, and Muhammad Ali, right? And watching this documentary and seeing this old footage of Jim Brown talk about the secret to success is just more black capitalism, I think is kind of the funny and interesting. You gonna say something, Pascal?
Oh, guys, this is what we'll watch Jim Brown talk about black capitalism.
But after Jim Brown talks about black capitalism, and he only has like a little snippet of a very real take, and also what the movie, the Black Hollywood documentary came out in 84. So if we think about black cinema in 84, there really wasn't much of it. You had some actors that broke through, but were coming off of the blaxploitation era of the 70s.
It's like 2 years. It's like 2 years before Spike Lee.
Oh wow, yeah. So this is before She's Gotta Have It breaks and School Days and what's the one that everybody loved, where they throw the trash can through the window. Do the Right Thing. 5 years before Do the Right Thing. So this documentary has a lot of the actors that were in those blaxploitation movies. And a lot of they're really angry because to them, they're like, look, we did this thing where we just took a role. We thought it was cool. And now we can't get a job because of these motherfucking roles we took. So it's a lot of black people going, you know what we need? We need black studios. You know what we need this. And then and it's funny watching it because now here we are in 2021 and Tyler Perry has the black studios and they would be doing a different kind of blaxploitation, a Jesus blaxploitation. Which DC police is so infested with scandals, I swear. Professor Rodríguez is from the DC area.
I thought I should say that because people talking about DC police and whatnot, and I'm from Northern Virginia.
I mean, DC had some serious problems in the 80s, back to that whole 80s and crack conversation, which we could get into that probably for a whole other episode of the tough on crime rhetoric really coming down in the 80s in places like DC, Los Angeles, New York. I mean, New York, Pascal, you were in New York still.
Oh, it was crazy, man.
When Bernard Getz goes and shoots up.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You look fine. Have another. That
dude was a fucking hero. So all kind of white people. Come on.
Fucking ran for me. I'm Gonna Get You Sucker was about 88, and I think that's Chris Rock's first role. If that's not his first role, then Beverly Hills Cop 2 is, whichever came out first. So, do you guys remember this woman right here?
Is that Jane Kennedy?
You remember her?
Oh, do I?
Oh, wow.
Right? Just still fine.
She died. Is she still alive?
I don't know. But she probably looked just like that now.
Jake, whoo, child. I remember. Well, I'm not going to tell you what I remember about Jake.
So, as we're playing this, we can also talk. So if you guys want to make comments over this, please go ahead.
I'd rather watch Jane Kennedy.
I believe Leon Isaac is in this too. You can do it too, sweet. You guys have seen Penitentiary. My mom worked nights, so unfortunately, I watched like all the Penitentiary movies on cable, and I'm still scarred. So here we go. Black Hollywood.
Quite a bit of money, which was why we felt so
Vanetta
betrayed.
McGee.
Because
she was in Any Which Way But Loose.
you would think if something made money, then they would want to put some more money in it.
The movie with Richard Pryor. Is that what she was in? Can y'all hear me?
But it didn't work out that way.
It was at a point in Hollywood's history when the movie going public was low, a lull. Whites weren't going to films. They got tired of seeing that. They'd rather look at television. There was more invention on television. So the film industry, the film market began to drop because people weren't going. So they resorted to that secondary market. And once the secondary market got Hollywood some money, got its win back, so to speak, they then began to establish the
I just want you guys to know that I will be wearing this outfit for the Thursday.
They then began to go back to the position of, okay, we've got some money now. We don't need the blacks. We don't need the minorities. We don't need the women. We don't need none of that. We're going to do our thing.
Well, the emphasis was in the wrong place. You know, there was Pan-Africanism and people wanted to speak Swahili and there was this whole concept of Africa.
This is Jim Brown talking about the failures of the civil rights movement.
Africa was one place and we could take one language and it would bring us together if we wore dasikis and naturals. But really, all we had to understand was our buying power, the dollars that we spent and what those dollars meant.
The black buying power.
The problem was these niggas
which would have given us power. So we could have operated from an economic base, develop a political base, which we are developing now, and we would have gained our freedom much quicker.
Oh, I have that mustache,
but,
Jeremy
leaders,
Salmon.
a lot of them are very immature, and I say that, not that I'm that bright, but they're immature because the targets that they pick were targets that really would mean nothing in the future. We have the great historical March on Washington. As a person who believed in economics, what the March on Washington meant to me was symbolism. I didn't need it because I knew black was all right anyway. I didn't need anyone to tell me that I got to go to Washington.
I believe it was the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom.
What happened is that blacks spent a lot of money going to Washington, and most of that money went into the hands of white people who own those hotels and the transportation.
Can somebody just fucking talk to Jim Brown, please?
Ultimately, in America, it's going to be economic
There's
power.
So much good shit Jim Brown could do. The credibility he's got, with so many people. Can somebody just fucking talk to Jim Brown?
That's why that movie Miami made me mad because Jim Brown is so problematic. Oh, she's dead.
Put them in.
She died, y'all.
Films that appealed
no,
to
she
a
didn't.
mass
Yes, she died in 2010. That's Vanetta McGee.
An ethnic segment.
Never.
They went into disaster films. From disaster films, they went into monster films. Now they're into high technology films. And I think it's monkey see, monkey do.
Okay.
White fantasy films. I love the fantasy. I do. I like
Paul Mooney all day over Jim Brown.
I love that film. White people running track. I laughed for 2 weeks. I love that fantasy. Oh, come on. I love the fantasy. I saw Body Heat. White people screwing all night. I love the fantasy. No, I saw Annie, the little white orphan. I loved it. I said, look, somebody killed this little bitch before I do. Tomorrow. No, Annie, I'm killing you tonight. There'll be no tomorrow.
84, my man.
What was that? That was a fantasy. I loved, what was it? The boxer. Rocky. I love that. 1, 2, and 3. I love it. The fantasy. White people do not beat up gray, big, black, wild niggas. They don't do that. Hoping to do Rocky IV. It's serious. He's a swimmer. He swims from here to England. There's a black man in a canoe. Shit, this white man can swim. God damn. Then I saw the fantasy, E.T., It could only, E.T., it could only happen to white people. You'd fall in love with a long-necked, big-eyed, green, ugly, green little bastard from space. Drag him home, let him sleep with your kids, let him eat up the food, let him try on all the clothes, a little freak, let him drink up everything, let him phone home, beg him to live with you, and you can't live next door to niggas for 5 minutes. The shit is sick and you know it. Oh, come on, give it up. It's some sick stuff.
All right. So I had to play that because I thought it was fun and hilarious, and it had literally nothing to do with what we were talking about. But I just fucking
had everything to do with what we were talking about. Fuck that.
Well, fucking Jim Brown did, because Jim Brown came in with the problem with you colored people is that
all we had to do was buy banks, stocks, and everything would be wonderful.
Oh, Pascal, can you go talk to him, please? I think he's where's he? Is he in LA still? Go talk to Jim Brown. He's not going to listen to me. He might listen to you.
He ain't listening because none of us is rich enough for him to listen.
He listened to
Donald Trump. Jim Brown is kind of motherfucker that'll push over 5 brothers to get to one Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a minute? About all these folks that are in those late stages were looking so, I mean, they were so clout thirsty that they were ready to jump on stage with Trump and jump on board with Trump. Ice Cube, who I used to love. I used to love Ice Cube. I can't lie. I'm just gonna own it.
Oh man,
I used to love Ice Cube.
And
then he does this. Then he does this. Oh my god,
man!
Somebody asked one of y'all to
Lil Wayne. Yeah.
First of all, this show went longer than we thought it was gonna go. So I don't. Y'all lucky I don't know how to do this and do it on Patreon. So this is all a free show. Someone asked about you guys giving your critique of Eldridge Cleaver.
Well, Eldridge became a reactionary in his later life, like many people did in the 80s.
Thank you.
You know, he became a reactionary in his later life. I mean, a lot of people had problems with Eldridge even during the movement, to be quite honest with you, man. There are a lot of people who feel that his leadership is what broke up the Panthers. I mean, you know, there's a lot of contention behind Eldridge and his role in the Panthers. You know, that beef is old. That's not even new, man. A lot of cats thought he was way too wild. He was a little off the charts, a little, you know, just a little off the beaten path.
Yeah, his misogyny was just off the charts. It's what fed into this whole. I think you know, respectability and right-wing hysteria around the radical iterations of the black liberation movement at that time. I think the person much more we're talking about is Kathleen Cleaver.
I like Kathleen. She's very
Kathleen Cleaver's kept it going for decades and decades and decades. I mean, that's a warrior. That's a soldier in the best way, in the best sense of that term. Kathleen Cleaver. Now, I don't know that it was Eldridge's idea necessarily to organize, just to respond to the chat. I don't know if it was Eldridge's idea to organize gang members and lumping folks. I think a lot of that was coming out of George Jackson and other people that were incarcerated. You know, the notion that the Panthers and others had to start focusing the organizing on criminalized displaced populations, what in Marxist terminology is the lumpen proletariat. Yeah, I don't know. I think Eldridge Cleaver might have claimed credit for that, but I'm not sure that he's the one that did that.
I'm sorry, you guys. I was trying to get this Paul Mooney clip just right for you.
There's not enough Paul Mooney.
There's this one line. There's a Paul Mooney line that he says that I sometimes want to say on this show that I try to refrain from saying, because now that Zero Books is hosting our show, there's just far too many white people watching. So,
hi, Zero Books. Hi, white people.
Pascal was like, thanks, Jay.
White people, I know you. I grew up around you. I know you, white people.
Pascal's like, you just ruined my whole book deal.
Man, it's getting late out here. Everyone's getting goofy.
Oh, shit. I wanted to find this clip and I can't find it, so fuck it. I can't find it. And it's pissing me off because it is actually somebody says, oh, look at this. What do you know? There you go. There you go. Thank you, Zero Books. Real talk. Shout out to Doug Lane and Zero Books for making that phone call and being like, I got this crazy idea.
They gave you a show.
They
I mean, no. I take it back. You had a show. My bad.
Had a show, and
I didn't mean it like that.
They play. No. Hey,
they open shit up for your show.
Tomato. That's how I look at it. It doesn't. I'm not sitting here acting like, nah, man. Paul Mooney makes me uncomfortable sometimes. Zero Books Media Empire. A big reason why I wanted to Pascal, do you want to talk a little bit about your upcoming book?
My upcoming book is basically entitled From Obama to Trump and the Crisis of Black Politics. It's about how the internal class contradictions of Black politics facilitate the rise of Trump, as well as the discontent with the Obama presidency, and how Obama's turn and the neoliberal turn in Black politics heralds something new and different in Black politics that I don't think we are yet prepared to react to resurface from.
Hey, you must be all over Black Agenda Report too, huh?
I write for Black Agenda Report.
Okay, that's where I thought I knew you from. Okay, because this is Black Agenda Report right here. That's why Black Agenda Report is one of my homepages. All right.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, Glenn Ford and them. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, everyone needs to go to Black Agenda Report first thing in the morning. That'll wake your shit up.
Yeah, man. We try to keep the Black left tradition alive, brother. I've been writing.
And you do. And you do. Hey, can I talk? Can I just mention something? I can't get this. I can't get this off my mind right now. Do y'all know what is happening with one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, with Alicia Garza?
Oh, I sent Pascal that.
We're hearing rumble.
Yeah. Oh my God! I mean, I can't say I'm shocked, but I'm just so fucking I don't know. Disappointed is just too light of a word. But you're talking. These are the same motherfuckers that were putting my picture all over their website and like they're making death threats against me because they're fucking genocidal Zionists. You know, and oh my God! And they're giving her an award. Alicia Garza is getting an award from this right-wing pro-Israel Zionist organization.
Rabbi Shmuley.
What's the name of this organization again? I know you have it right in front of you.
Pascal,
Jason has all the facts.
Y'all is treating me like a little bitch.
Oh man, it's
like a bitch right now.
It's rough. She's taken this award and
Jewish Journal.
Yeah, Jewish Journal. Jewish Journal is one of the venues connected to it. But
Rabbi Shmuley Bo teaches nonprofit gala to honor BLM co-founder among other Black leaders.
Yeah, I think Steve Harvey's going to be in there. I mean, this is a really strategic Zionist move to start bringing prominent Black people into the fold. But there's something very.
This goes to my larger point that Black politics is a class politics, and it's not a class that represents the interests of the majority of Black people.
Yeah, man, it's just rough. It's just rough to experience this from somebody who's
supposed to know better.
I don't know that they're supposed to know better anymore. I don't know if that's being too generous at this point. But just the lack of principle scrutiny of who it is you're taking an award from, who you're sharing the stage with. I mean, can we just take a little bit of time and think about that before we jump on the microphone with people, before we cash that check? I mean, some of that shit is so dirty, you're never going to shake the stink. You're never going to shake it off.
It was remember that movie with Rodney Dangerfield, Back to School? And they asked like how he got in there, and he was like, it was a very large check. Sometimes them checks is very large. What did the great now I can't think of his damn name. Black guy, historian, real smart. I'm drawing a blank.
Horn.
There you go. See, you talk about you tired, but you knew that off the top of your head.
I just I was tired. I was just saying it's kind of late. I got it, you know.
Anyway, Gerald Horn was like, when we were talking, he's like, hey, a lot of cats do a lot of shit for some money. And don't be surprised, you might have a price as well. And I don't know if I have a price because no one's ever offered me money to say what the fuck they want to say because I don't have a platform like that. But I do think money does move people to say and do shit.
But you know what? I'm gonna humbly call bullshit on that.
Okay.
And here's why. Everybody's got a price if they're not in community with people that are gonna fucking hold their shit accountable.
I agree.
You follow me? Like if you're in a community with people, if you're you know, if you share bread and love with people that are going to hold you accountable, then the price won't even matter.
Some people will throw those folks under the bus.
Well, no, this is true. This is true, and I see that over and over again, right? But I'm just saying, if I'm scared enough of some of y'all that are holding me accountable, then I'm not going to cash the check. That's what I'm saying. You know.
Well, isn't that kind of what I've been reading about the movie, the Judas and the Messiah? Is that's like the message of the William O'Neill character, that he is only beholden to himself, which is why he's able to, sell out not just a man but a movement, just to stay out of jail and for adjust for inflation a couple $1,000. But at the time, at $300, a life was worth $300 to him.
Yep.
Even adjusting for inflation, $2,000 is not a life worth, in my opinion. So maybe you're right, Dylan. Maybe you're right.
Hey, look, I found it. It's called the Champions of Jewish Values Gala, the 9th annual Champions of Jewish Values Gala. So just think about the arrogance of this, right? That you have a right-wing pro-Israel Zionist organization that's tied to all these trolls that are throwing death threats around against anybody that's going to challenge their anti-Palestinian genocidal apartheid politics. And they're going to declare themselves the champions of universal Jewish values. And now they're bringing a co-founder of Black Lives Matter on stage to give her an award along with Steve Harvey and all these other people. Imagine the arrogance of that. Just think about the arrogance of that and to flip it on anybody who's going to challenge their shit and reference them as being somehow racist and anti-Semitic and Nazi-like. I mean, come on now.
Isn't it worthy of you interrogating the whole functionality and origins of Black Lives Matter overall?
At least its trajectory, yes. The trajectory, absolutely, the trajectory, where it's gone. I mean, I've always said that's the thing about movements in the 21st century and even the late 20th century is that what more often than not, the most interesting and transformative and creative and radical and, feminist and queer and abolitionist shit is actually happening on the margins of those movements, not in the kind of mainstream, most funded and camera ready part of those movements. It's usually happening on the margins. That's at least, it's not just my experience, but also just what I've seen. Right, just empirically, like analyzing this shit. Like Occupy was like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the most interesting stuff in Occupy were people that were on the margins of Occupy.
Cedric and Pascal mentioned they were getting co-opted.
Oh, that ship sailed, y'all.
Excuse me.
I mean, there's been a call to accountability from a bunch of BLM chapters all over the country, asking straight up where the money went.
Here I was thinking BLM were trained Marxists.
Yeah. One time.
I mean, hey man, yeah, that's pretty bad. Do you think it's one of those things that they're not in the know, or
I think that it's part of the original plan?
Word. I mean, you guys, we have some off the record conversations that I wish you guys can hear. Because also keep in mind, if you listen to the show that Dylan's on the podcast, there's an hour-long free show and then another hour for patrons. But we talked for like 3+ hours. We had some really good.
Yeah, get Dylan back on the show, man. I like the brother. I appreciate the brothers, back and forth. We got to talk more often, man.
I'm down. I'm here.
I was joking with somebody.
No one else wants to talk to me.
Well, they want to. Put a hot one in your ass. That's what they
Whole wheat bread says I'm savage. Why am I savage? I'm not savage. I'm so kind to everybody.
That's like a young people colloquialism.
That's the ultimate compliment.
Yeah,
Pascal,
like,
you should just take that. You should embrace that. You should get a T-shirt made.
I think, or he could mean that you. No, I'm just playing.
I never get called that.
It's like a compliment. Like you sad.
That's the ultimate compliment.
That's my daughter's boyfriend says things like that. So why in the USA are there only 2 parties? Greetings from Europe. Hey, what part of Europe are you from? Shout out, because we're about to play some black shit in a minute. That's going to be very non-European. So just hold your bonnet. Savage AF. That means ass fuck, Pascal.
I figured that part out. Thank you.
Oh, coming from Austria. Shout out. A good friend of mine from high school actually lives in Austria right now and loves that shit. Actually told me to come out there with him. Just look at this. This is so funny. I know you guys are gonna crack the fuck up when you see this. What? I was combing through this movie trying to find some more Paul Mooney, and there was more. What's that dude's name? God, Jim Brown, and he is just so fucking horrible. So I had to pass this Jim Brown, and then I found this. So
that's 84.
This is 84, hardcore like 84. So check this.
Forget to register to vote. You know, it's a man's world unless women vote. Are you registered to vote?
And Jesse Jackson running for president. Just think of that. Jesse Jackson. Do you know what happened if he runs for president? What would actually happen? Dead white people will get out of their graves to go vote. Dawn of the voters. They don't know why. They just have to go. America is not ready for a black president. They're not ready. Come on, they're not even ready for a nigger vice president. Let's be realistic. Which would work. It would be wonderful. Nigger vice president. Think about it. Be perfect. That would assure the president wouldn't be assassinated. Oh, ain't nobody gonna shoot with a nigger vice president. There'll be no shooting. President can ride in a convertible all day, all night. There'll be no shooting. Where's the president? He's asleep in the convertible. He's safe.
Well, a change has to come almost as a political one. Our political leaders has to understand economics better. Let's say that if Jesse Jackson had joined forces with the blacks in Hollywood 10 years ago and raised $100 million, then we would be in the film business right now. In other words, you can't do it the same way. It has to be almost a political movement. It has to catch the conscience of the people. It has to be pointed out by our black leaders. It has to be backed by our black leaders. And we could make that entree because then the studios could not afford to keep us out. So if we're going to go about it that way, then we need the support of the Jesse Jacksons and the various mayors of the major cities. And we can raise enough money to lose 10 times and win 3 times.
The greatest running back in
the
NFL
home run concept
history
is that as a black, you must come in with roots.
And you got to come with
Second
this.
time, you must come in with something like roots, which means every time you come to bat, you hit a home run. That's not realistic business. What you've got to do is start out, develop the funds, enough funds, so that you can make 5, 6, 10, 15 movies and take your shot. Because anybody in the movie business know that every movie is not going to be a hit. But yet as black people, they tell us that, well, it's not going to make money, and you got one shot, and if that fails, then it's going to put black people back for 30 years. Well, that doesn't happen in business. We're just being fooled. You know, that's ridiculous.
I think we have to stop holding our hands out expecting someone to do something for us. So if I think the black film period would come back again, I don't think it will like that. But there's a whole group of young black producers coming up now. There's Jamal Fanaka, there's There's Leon Isaac. There's Max Julian. He's getting ready to do something. There's Leroy Robinson, who's shooting in Africa now. I'm hoping to get funding for my film. And there are a lot of us that rested for a while, and now we're back on it. And we realized that for $1 million, we can do a very good film and make quite a bit of money. And we don't have to go through the majors.
The thing that's interesting to me about all this,
Sidney Poitier, Charles Floyd Johnson, who
go ahead.
There's never any interrogation of what exactly is the role of black people in entertainment by any of these people at all, and why are they reserved for spectacle in the first place. Like, there's no critical engagement with, like, well, you ever wonder why all of you are entertainers in the first place? Like, why is there disproportionately so much focus on entertainment? Why has this been channeled as the only means to demonstrate quote unquote black excellence is as a means of using you to entertain? And I mean, it's just it's again, man, black nationalism, black power succeeded culturally where it failed politically. It succeeded culturally in that creating this notion of a prolonged, unified black interest that could be shaped by elites, by their own tutelage, without any kind of democratic accountability to the black masses, all under the guise of creating this vision of a uniform black interest that no one can ask where it comes from, or where exactly is it shaped by. It's
well, I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that's the problem with the canonization of now Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, and Charles Hamilton's book. That's the problem with the canonization of it, and the fact that that's become the reference of first resort for way too many uninformed people who don't have any serious, robust engagement with the Black radical tradition, right? Is they go to that book. That's what that book is.
That book it's a plea for ethnic patronage politics.
That's what that is. Yeah, that it's a plea for Black electoral politics and Black capitalism and Black entrepreneurship. That's what it is.
Ethnic patronage politics and blackface.
Yeah, that's what it is. And when universities, academia, the nonprofit industrial complex, and the non-Black activist world, when they canonize texts like that, it creates a lot of fucking trouble, right? It creates the non-accountability that you just talked about.
One of the things that I wanted to host on this show was an interrogation of Black power, from Black power to today's Black politics, a full interrogation of the Black power movement from a radical left perspective. Because I think there's too much romanticism with Black power on the Black left. And I think there's too many of us who are stuck looking at our politics like it's 1972 without criticizing what were the internal class contradictions that Black power was unable to rectify, but actually helped precipitate.
Yeah, and how it is that these petty bourgeois interpretations of Black power are part of the effective counterinsurgency against the radical revolutionary strains of Black liberation and Black power struggle. I mean, that's what did it, and that's what's been doing it, right? These petty bourgeois Black nationalist claims around Black power as a certain kind of commodified aesthetic, as you called it, the spectacle, this kind of spectacle of Black performance and whatnot. And I think the Black radical queer community, Black radical feminist community is probably been most effective, at least in my mind, at least in what I've seen, in demystifying that aesthetic and spectacle-based practice. Right. I mean, I think some of that work is deep. Isaac Julian stuff. I mean, we could go on down the line, right? But yeah, rethinking what it means to be doing that aesthetic work, like Black-centered and Black liberating aesthetic work. I mean,
I mean, in what capacity? It's not about Black or white. It's about social class. Can a white man compete with a Black Hollywood star? I mean, race is always a factor, but I don't know compete in what capacity. I guess I'd be asking that question. Because racism still happens to even black Hollywood stars. I mean, didn't Chris Rock not too long ago get fucked with pulling into his own driveway? So I don't know what capacity you're asking that question, but I keep saying we're going to end this show because we've gone on way longer than we usually go on, and we're going to end with this. And I'm not even going to set this clip up. Okay, I'm lying. I'm lying. I'm going to set this clip up. So I remember going to the theater to see this with my mom, and I don't know if she's still watching. And I was really excited to watch as like a little kid, and it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. And I think Robert Townsend was somewhat genius for doing this movie when he did this movie. And he's actually gone on to make some interesting films. So is Jim Brown saying we got to get famous and throw all that money into political campaigns? Yes, that's exactly what he's saying. Literally what he's done with his life and the Republican Party. Feels like he is safe. So when end times comes and whatever race war he's afraid of comes, his lacrosse playing black ass will be right there next to the Bushes. Too many lefts depends on what you mean. There's definitely a chunk of the left, mostly white, stuck in the 30s. Damn, it's fucked up. So they're stuck in the 30s, like pre-fucking New Deal white people. Quit talking about pre-New Deal white people like that. I live in a country where there are only white people, but the rich are getting richer. There are classes. No, there's definitely classes. We just don't live in a country with only white people.
And I bet you that there's not only white people there too. I'm just guessing.
I don't even know where the country is.
All due respect.
Yeah,
I mean, I hear the point. I do. I'm not losing the point, but I'm just saying.
But the point right now is that if you do live in a country with only white people, then you did not enjoy Hollywood Shuffle. So you will enjoy it now. And you motherfucking deal with enjoying it now, goddammit. So here is Dom Herrera playing a shitty Hollywood director.
Come on, Jimmy. Go get Jimmy. Go get him.
Johnny? Johnny? You maricon cockroach. Johnny, you kill him. Yeah, you're right. Gee. Johnny, you killed John. Yeah, you know I'm a bad dude, Jack. Gee, yeah.
You better run before the police is gone.
Jimmy, it's Jimmy. Jimmy, coño.
Talk to me, Tommy.
I'm mad. I want revenge. Patience. A good guy.
Tommy, hit me. 2 times. On the good foot.
You're the director.
Yeah, I'm gonna walk, Tommy. Afro.
Yeah.
Afro. Yeah. I want revenge. Yeah. I want revenge.
Oh my God.
Afro.
Yeah.
Back up.
You Peters. You back up. Back up. You back up.
You back up.
You back up. You back up. Somebody. You back up.
You killed it, my brother. My main man. I loved it, this dude, baby. He was,
Cut.
Why is he stopping?
Bobby, that was terrific. That was terrific. Why'd you stop? What happened?
There's no problem.
I just forgot my line.
Okay, that's fine. No problem. You want to look at the script?
No, I'm okay.
Great. Okay. Let's go again.
Excuse me, Sidney. Before you do, I have another very good idea.
Yeah.
Could you tell him to be a little more, you know?
Yeah, Bobby. Bobby, I need a little more black. You know what I'm saying? Like, stick your ass out.
This is like university. This is like university diversity strategies right here.
Let's slate it. Let's go again.
Okay. Sorry, Sidney.
This is like what they do in the University of California right here.
And action.
I loved it, my brother. He was my main man,
Look at his grandma.
Oh.
Yeah, baby, because I loved him, and he was my only brother. He was like my main man. I loved it. I loved it, my brother.
Cut.
Why is he stopping again?
Why are you stopping?
He's about to kill you, white people. Oh, he's upset.
His work at the post office.
Mm.
I can't do this.
What do you say?
So you can't do this. So what are you talking about? You can't do this.
This is not the kind of acting I wanted to do. This is bullshit.
Get him out of here. Get him off the set. I'll have someone else do it.
I'll do it.
You guys.
Shit.
Oh, come on, you're blowing it for all of us.
This has got to change.
Look, this is work.
Shit, there's work at the post office.
Get him off the set. I want him off the set. Get him off the set. Get him out of here.
There's always got to be one.
Not worth it.
That becomes a theme of the movie, actually, that there's work at the post office. Is what his grandmother, the woman from 227, that someone said that because he's like, you know, grandma, I'm trying to be an actor, and she's like, I need work. She's like, there's work at the post office. Right? It's a union job. But Hollywood Shuffle, you know, that comes from Robert Townsend going on numerous job auditions and people asking for an Eddie Murphy type character. That he actually is a scene in the movie. So when the guy that yells out, I'll do the role, as he's auditioning for the part, if you guys don't remember the movie, the guy's in his ear telling him, hey man, this is what they want you to do. They want you to do this Uncle Tom bullshit. And that's how you're going to get in. They're going to make you play a street hood and all this other bullshit. And you'll never get ahead in Hollywood if you keep playing these hoods. So he keeps staying in Robert Townsend's ear as he gets the main role as the main hood. And then when Robert Townsend finally says, you know, I can't do this. It's sacrificing my integrity. Then the guy that told him that he was being accepted doing the role comes up and says, well, I'll coon for you. So,
I mean, this Hollywood Shuffle to me is a parable for the anti-blackness of class mobility. I mean, shit, I just saw a bunch of it in this meeting I was in today. I mean, fuck.
You said that sound like you were saying something the UC system. You said
no. It's the no. I see him doing this to black students, black colleagues, like all the time, right? It's white administrators primarily, but not exclusively white administrators, right? Sometimes it's just non-black administrators. Other times, every now and then it's black administrators that will tell them to dance.
Wow.
And then if there's somebody who has a righteous politics of refusal, there's somebody willing to step in and dance in their place.
I believe it. Well, we've gone way too long. Doug's probably going to get.
I just got here
because your monkey ass was late, and we had to start at 6. I'm not.
Hey, there's a racial history to that monkey shit. Watch that. Watch out.
I didn't feel comfortable starting later. So we started at 6 anyway.
Yeah, I know.
But even if we did start at 7, we usually go about an hour and a half. So we went 2 hours. We'll see what Doug says. My brother Joel says, thank you for the conversation. I'm happy I was able to watch the live stream while working. Thank you very much. My brother is working out there in COVID land. So
I'm going to pull out of here, guys. We will see each other soon.
I will see you guys later. Pascal, peace. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, brother. Peace.
We'll do this again, huh? We're gonna do this again soon, right? You gonna invite me again, or did I wear out my welcome tonight?
Hey, I wish you would have been able to get here earlier, but I know life happens. I wish you could have been on here with our mutual homegirl, so we could have talked shit.
All right, we'll make that happen at some point.
And your ass is definitely coming back.
All right, I'm down.
Because we're gonna. My big thing I want to do is I really want to. I feel like we have to do it again. Interrogate these '90s hood movies because we're reliving '90s hood movies right now. Like Pascal was talking about, people are like, "Oh, well, crime rate, and what are we gonna do with these Negroes and guns?" So we really have to look again at when these colored people had guns in the '80s and '90s. What the reaction always was from politicians. And not make those same mistakes again, and even try to woke wash them with something else.
I'm down.
You need to have one with Doug where he's the only white guy. Oh, Doug Lane from Zero Books? No. Doug is the only white guy on his show. You make sure he's the whitest guy on his show. If you want to quote me on that motherfucker, you can. So thank you, Dylan, for coming on. Thank you guys for paying attention. If you want to hear a more in-depth conversation laid back with Dylan and myself, please go to This Is Revolution podcast. It's on YouTube if you're watching the show on YouTube. It's a 2-part episode. We've been switching up the show a little bit. And when I'm not dumping the audio just from here, then when I have my one-on-one conversations, we talk for an hour, and then we have another hour on Patreon. It's really good. Also, please go get his book. There's buy links in all the chat comments for the book that I put, White Reconstruction. He has another book with a very long academic title.
I got 2 other books. What are you talking about? And one that's co-edited. I got 2 books and one more that's co-edited. Anyway. We don't need to do that. Hey, if anyone actually wants to buy that book, I think that the discount code still works.
I might have shout it out.
I think there's still a discount code that's up, and I'm gonna tell you what it's called. It's Freedom 2020. If you type it, I think if you go to the Fordham Press website and you want to buy that book, I think it's 30% off.
So anyone that wants to get the book, if you go to the Fordham site, which is in the comments of the YouTube chat, the Twitter chat, the Twitch chat, Facebook wouldn't let me get in for whatever reason. The Fordham 2020, and it is on the Fordham website is the one I put up there. I definitely want you back on the show because you told me to reach out to. Originally, I wanted Dylan on to talk about some Filipino shit, and we went down a rabbit hole of we did go down a rabbit hole of some Filipino shit actually on the show. 1,000 Cuts. It's a documentary about Rappler, which is a
Rappler's shit.
I believe is their name.
That's my idol. That's my
the news site in the Philippines, and she's been covering Duterte. She just covers the news, but she's been covering him with a critical eye, as any good reporter should. I don't think she is really that far to the left. She comes off to me, and maybe you disagree, Dylan, as kind of a centrist Democrat.
I think she. At this point, what makes her so antagonistic to that regime is that she's just fucking against fascism.
Yeah, that's she just challenges power, and he's I won't say he's comic bookish because he's really an evil man, and the documentary really shows that, and it doesn't go too in depth of what he's doing. It's more about him silencing the media, which is insane what he did to her, put the poor woman in jail. But I reached out to the filmmakers of 1,000 Cuts, and they still haven't gotten back to me. So,
yeah, man. No, Duterte is the logical outcome of United States neocolonialism. That's what he is. He's the logical outcome of all that shit. So
we'll
do that.
I do want you to. I try to get again, I did reach out to the woman Cynthia. I think her name is like Cindy or Cynthia. I forget her name, but I did reach out to her. I reached out to the filmmakers. They actually got back to me, and I had to go through their publicist. So
right on.
And I had to do the LA shit.
Hey, hit me up on email, and I'll text and email around. I got some friends that might know a direct line.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, hit me up.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for checking this out, and we will see you Thursday at 6, where we talk contemporary Russian politics.
Hell yeah. Watch your back, Jason. Watch your back.
Hey, you watch your back. Hey, love you, homeboy.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.